When stars fall like tears, there are moments when the universe conspires to change everything. When fate draws two unlikely souls together across the vast emptiness of space. This is a story about survival, about trust forged in the fires of desperation, and about how sometimes the most broken among us become the strongest together. The binary suns of Taros Prime hung low on the horizon, painting the desert in shades of amber and crimson as Kira stumbled through the endless dunes. Her violet scales, once luminous and proud, were now caked with dust and dried blood. Each breath sent sharp pains through her ribcage where the explosion had thrown her against the bulkhead. Her wings, magnificent appendages that could span 15 feet when fully extended, dragged uselessly behind her, the left one torn and mangled from shrapnel. Kira was Valtorian, a species humans had nicknamed dragonfolk for their reptilian features and impressive wings. She had been a communications officer aboard the refugee transport Celestial Dawn, carrying 300 souls fleeing the war that had consumed the Andara system, 300 families seeking peace, 300 dreams of a better tomorrow, all of it reduced to scattered debris across this forsaken planet's surface when the warships found them. She couldn't remember how long she'd been walking. Time had become meaningless, measured only by the rhythm of one foot in front of the other. Her emergency beacon had been destroyed in the crash, her supplies scattered across miles of wreckage. The only reason she was still alive was sheer stubborn will, the same determination that had kept her going through 5 years of brutal conflict. The desert stretched endlessly before her, an ocean of red sand punctuated by jagged rock formations that looked like the bones of ancient giants. No water, no shelter, no hope. Yet Kira walked on because stopping meant dying, and she refused to let the war claim another victim. Not like this. Not alone in the dust. As the larger sun dipped below the horizon, leaving only its smaller companion to light her way, Kira's vision began to blur. Dehydration was setting in, her Valtorian physiology struggling without proper hydration. She'd managed to find moisture in the pulp of a few desert plants, but it wasn't enough. Nothing was enough anymore. That's when she saw them, lights in the distance. Not the harsh glare of military installations, but the warm, steady glow of habitation, civilization, hope. She changed direction, her pace quickening despite her exhaustion. As she drew closer, the lights resolved into structures. Low buildings clustered around what appeared to be cultivated fields, impossible greenery in this barren wasteland. Some kind of agricultural settlement. Kira's steps faltered. She was Valtorian, and this was clearly a human colony. Relations between their species had always been complicated even before the war. Some humans saw her kind as allies, fellow refugees from the expanding conflict zones. Others saw monsters, dragons from ancient Earth mythology come to life, creatures to be feared and driven away. But she had no choice. Without help, she would die within the next day, perhaps sooner. The settlement's perimeter was marked by a simple fence, more decorative than defensive. As Kira approached, proximity sensors detected her presence and floodlights blazed to life, turning night into day and freezing her in their glare. She raised her arms, a universal gesture of peaceful intent, though her clawed hands trembled with exhaustion. "Please," she called out in standard, her voice raspy from days without water. "I need help. My ship crashed. I mean no harm." For a long moment nothing happened. Then a door opened in the nearest building, and a figure emerged, silhouetted against the warm light from within. As he approached, Kira could make out details. Tall for a human, perhaps in his late 30s, with sun-weathered skin and dark hair touched with gray at the temples. He wore practical work clothes and carried what looked like a scanning device rather than a weapon. "You're a long way from any settlement routes," the man said, his tone cautious but not hostile. He stopped about 10 feet away, the scanner's soft blue light playing across Kira's form. "And in pretty bad shape." "Refugee transport," Kira managed, swaying slightly on her feet. "We were attacked, crashed somewhere in the northern wastes. I've been walking for 4 days." The man studied her for a moment longer, then seemed to come to a decision. He lowered the scanner and stepped forward. "I'm Marcus Chen. This is my farm, or what passes for one on this dust ball." He gestured toward her injuries. "Can you walk a bit further? My medical bay is in the main hab." Kira nodded, not trusting her voice. The simple kindness in his tone after days of struggling alone threatened to overwhelm her carefully maintained composure. Marcus moved to her side, offering support but not touching her without permission. Another gesture that Kira appreciated. Her people valued personal space and the fact that this human understood that spoke of experience with other species. The walk to the main habitat was short, but to Kira it felt like miles. Her legs were giving out, her vision tunneling as her body finally acknowledged how close to complete collapse she truly was. Marcus caught her as she stumbled, his strength surprising as he took most of her weight. "Stay with me," he said firmly. "Just a few more steps. Come on. You didn't survive a crash and 4 days in the desert just to pass out on my doorstep." Something about his matter-of-fact tone cut through the fog in Kira's mind. She forced her legs to keep moving, one step then another, until finally they were through the door and into blessedly cool, humid air. The interior of the hab was more spacious than it appeared from outside, with comfortable living quarters visible beyond an open doorway. But Marcus steered her toward a different door, this one leading to a surprisingly well-equipped medical facility. "Lie down here," he instructed, guiding her to an examination bed designed for multiple body types. "I'm going to run a diagnostic scan. Then we'll get some fluids into you. Can you tell me your name?" "Kira," she whispered, her strength finally failing as she collapsed onto the bed. "Kira Voltan, Communications Officer, Celestial Dawn." "Well, Kira Voltan, you picked the right farm to stumble onto." Marcus was already moving around the room with practiced efficiency, pulling out medical supplies and preparing equipment. "I used to be a field medic with the Alliance Relief Corps, treated plenty of Valtorians during the border conflicts. I know your physiology." Relief washed over Kira so intensely that tears pricked her eyes. A medic. Of all the places she could have found in this desert, she'd found someone who could actually help her. As Marcus began the examination, his hands gentle but competent, Kira felt herself finally able to let go of the iron control that had kept her moving. For the first time in 4 days, she wasn't alone. For the first time since the attack, she might actually survive. "Your wing needs serious attention," Marcus said, his tone professional but concerned. "And you're severely dehydrated. I'm going to start an IV, get some electrolytes into your system, then we'll deal with the other injuries." He paused, meeting her eyes. "You're safe here, Kira, I promise. Rest now." As the cool flow of fluids began coursing through her veins and exhaustion finally claimed her, Kira's last conscious thought was that perhaps, just perhaps, the universe hadn't completely abandoned her after all. Seeds of trust. Kira woke to soft lighting and the gentle hum of medical equipment. For a moment, disorientation gripped her as memory and reality collided. Where was she? The transport? No, the transport was destroyed. The desert? She should be dying in the sand. Then it came back. The lights in the darkness. The human farmer, Marcus Chen. Safety. She tried to sit up and immediately regretted it as pain lanced through her torso. A soft chime sounded, and moments later, Marcus entered the medical bay carrying a tray of something that smelled surprisingly appetizing. "Easy," he said, setting the tray aside and helping her adjust to a more comfortable position. "You've been out for about 18 hours. Your body needed the rest. How's the pain level?" "Manageable," Kira replied, taking stock of her condition. Her wing had been carefully bandaged and splinted, immobilizing it to allow healing. The gash on her side was sealed with medical adhesive, and she could feel the telltale tingle of cellular regeneration therapy. "You've done extensive work." "Your wing was the biggest concern," Marcus said, running a handheld scanner over her. The tear went through 2 of the primary flight membranes. "I've stabilized it, but you're going to need specialized reconstructive therapy to regain full flight capability. That's beyond my equipment here." He studied the scanner readings. "Everything else is healing well. Valtorian recovery rates are impressive when properly supported." Kira flexed her claws experimentally, relieved to find her motor control intact. "You said you were with the Alliance Relief Corps. Past tense?" Something flickered across Marcus's face, too quick to identify. 3 years ago. "I retired, bought this land, started growing hydroponic crops for the colony network." He picked up the tray again. "Speaking of which, I've prepared something compatible with Valtorian dietary needs. Protein paste isn't appetizing, but it's nutritious." As Kira ate, grateful for anything after days of near starvation, she observed her host more carefully. The medical bay was too well equipped for a simple retired medic. The security she'd glimpsed coming in was subtle but sophisticated. And there was something about the way Marcus moved, a constant awareness of his surroundings that spoke of more than civilian farming experience. You're wondering if you can trust me, Marcus said suddenly, meeting her gaze. That's smart. Trust gets people killed, especially in wartime. I don't have much choice, Kira replied honestly. Without your help, I'd be dead. But yes, I'm curious. This farm seems like an unusual retirement for a relief corps medic. Marcus was quiet for a moment, then seemed to come to a decision. I didn't just retire. I left because I disagreed with certain Alliance policies regarding war refugees. Policies that prioritized political considerations over humanitarian need. His jaw tightened. After the Kessian massacre, I couldn't be part of that organization anymore. Kyra went still. The Kessian massacre was infamous throughout known space. An Alliance-protected refugee camp had been attacked by separatist forces, and the Alliance military response had been delayed by bureaucratic wrangling for over 6 hours. By the time help arrived, 2,000 refugees were dead, including 300 children. I was there, Marcus continued, his voice flat with old pain. I watched people die because politicians couldn't agree on jurisdictional protocols. So I left, came here to Taros Prime, and set up this farm. I grow food for the independent colonies, the ones the Alliance considers too minor to protect properly. He looked directly at her. That's why you're safe here, Kira. I don't ask questions about politics or sides. I just help people who need it. The honesty in his words resonated with something deep in Kira's soul. She had seen too much death, too much suffering caused by the same political games Marcus described. Her own transport had been denied military escort because the Alliance deemed it non-strategic, even though everyone aboard was fleeing active combat zones. The Celestial Dawn was carrying refugees from the Andara system, she said quietly. Families mostly. Some wounded. 300 people who just wanted to survive. Her claws clenched on the empty food container. The warships that attacked us weren't separatists. They were Alliance military, enforcing the new containment protocols. Marcus's expression darkened. Containment. They're calling it that now? They don't want refugees spreading news of what's really happening in the border systems, Kira explained, her voice bitter. So they intercept transports, claim security concerns, and redirect survivors to internment facilities. Those who resist, she didn't need to finish the sentence, and you resisted. Our captain refused to change course. He said the people aboard had suffered enough, that they deserved to reach free colonies where they could actually rebuild their lives. Kira's throat tightened with grief. They destroyed us. 300 people, Marcus. I don't know how many made it to the escape pods, or if any other pod survived the landing. Marcus reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away if she chose, and rested his hand briefly on her shoulder, a gesture of simple human comfort. I'm sorry, he said, and I'm sorry the Alliance has become what it is. They sat in silence for a moment. Two souls who had seen the worst of what happened when politics trumped compassion. There's something else you should know, Marcus said eventually. This planet is technically under Alliance jurisdiction, but they maintain minimal presence here. Too remote, too resource poor to be worth significant investment. That works in your favor. No one's going to come looking for crashed refugees. But it also means if the Alliance did track your escape pod here, there won't be anyone to stop them from taking you. Have they? Kira asked, tension suddenly flooding back. Tracked me? I don't think so. My sensors haven't detected any orbital traffic beyond the regular supply freighters, but I can't be certain. Your pod's emergency beacon might have transmitted before it failed. He stood, moving to a wall console. I've been monitoring all communication channels. Nothing about refugee recovery operations. You might have fallen through the cracks, it was possible. The attack had been chaotic. The Celestial Dawn breaking apart in 3 separate pieces. The Alliance might assume no survivors, or they might be focused on recovering the other escape pods first. How long before my wing heals enough to travel? Kyra asked. With the regeneration therapy, 4 to 6 weeks for basic mobility. Full flight capability could take months without specialized treatment. Marcus turned back to her. But you're thinking about leaving sooner. I can't stay here indefinitely, Kira said. It's too dangerous for you. If the Alliance does come looking, harboring a refugee who resisted containment protocols could cost you everything. Let me worry about that, Marcus replied. Right now you need to focus on healing. When you're strong enough, we'll figure out next steps together. He smiled slightly. Besides, I could use help around the farm. My agricultural drones are efficient, but not particularly good conversationalists. Despite everything, Kira found herself smiling back. There was something deeply reassuring about Marcus's steady pragmatism, his refusal to be overwhelmed by circumstances. Over the following days, Kira's strength gradually returned. Marcus proved to be an excellent caretaker, managing her medications with practiced skill and ensuring she received proper nutrition. He'd converted a storage room adjacent to the medical bay into temporary quarters for her, installing climate controls adjusted for Valtorian comfort preferences, and providing entertainment media to combat boredom during her recovery. But what surprised Kira most was how easy it was to talk to him. During his daily check-ins, their conversations expanded beyond medical concerns. She told him about her life before the war, growing up on Valtoria Prime, her training in advanced communication systems, her dreams of becoming a translator at the Interspecies Council. He shared stories of his relief corps days, the people he'd helped, the diverse cultures he'd experienced across the frontier. They discovered unexpected common ground. Both loved classical earth music, found peace in growing things, and shared a deep frustration with the senseless violence consuming the galaxy. On the 8th day, Marcus declared her well enough for limited mobility. With his support, Kira took her first steps outside the medical bay, her legs shaky but holding. The farm's main habitat was surprisingly pleasant, decorated with artwork from multiple worlds and filled with thriving plants. "I like to bring some life inside," Marcus explained, gesturing to the greenery. "Reminds me that not everything in this universe is desert and dust." He guided her to a viewing window that overlooked the cultivation fields. Under a protective atmospheric dome, rows of vibrant crops stretched into the distance, a miracle of green in the red wasteland. "It's beautiful," Kira murmured. "It's possibility," Marcus corrected. "Every seed I plant is a statement that life persists, that we don't have to accept devastation as the norm." He glanced at her. "That's why I do this. Growing food is my resistance against the forces that would rather see people starve than admit their policies are failing." Kira understood. She'd felt the same way maintaining communication networks for refugee transports, ensuring people could stay connected to hope and information even as war surrounded them. They were both, in their own ways, fighting for the possibility of something better. That evening, as they shared a meal in the habitat's common area, Kira made a decision. "I want to help," she said, "with the farm. While I'm here recovering, I should contribute." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You're supposed to be resting." "Valtorians heal faster when we're active," Kira countered. "And I'm going restless just lying around." My communications training included systems integration and network management. Your agricultural systems must have similar needs. After a moment's consideration, Marcus nodded. "Actually, I've been meaning to upgrade the irrigation control network. The current system is functional but inefficient. If you're serious about helping, I am," Kira assured him. And so began an unexpected partnership. Kira spent her days working alongside Marcus, learning the intricacies of hydroponic farming while applying her technical skills to improve his systems. Her Valtorian perspective brought fresh insights to problems Marcus had grown accustomed to, and together they developed solutions neither could have achieved alone. As her body healed, something else began to grow. Trust. Real trust, built not from necessity but from genuine connection. Marcus never asked more than she was willing to share about her past, and she respected his privacy in return. Yet gradually, organically, they opened up to each other, two wounded souls finding unexpected comfort in unlikely friendship. 3 weeks into her recovery, Kira woke in the middle of the night cycle to the sound of alarms. She stumbled from her quarters to find Marcus at the central control console, his expression grim. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Orbital traffic," he replied, pulling up sensor data. "Alliance military vessel just entered system. They're broadcasting standard containment protocol inquiries." He looked at her and Kira saw worry in his eyes. "They're looking for escaped refugees." The moment of peace was over. Reality had found them again. Where trust blooms, the Alliance vessel orbited overhead like a waiting predator, its presence a constant reminder that sanctuary was always temporary. For 3 days, Marcus and Kira maintained careful routines, appearing to be nothing more than a farmer and his assistant going about ordinary business. The farm's systems were designed with discretion in mind, its sensors sophisticated enough to monitor the military ship without betraying their awareness. "They're conducting systematic scans of the surface," Marcus explained, reviewing the data on his private console. Starting with the northern quadrant where your transport crashed, they'll work their way south over the next week. Kira stood at the window, her wings held carefully to avoid aggravating the healing tissue. In the 3 weeks since her arrival, the left wing had mended significantly, though it would never be quite the same. The scars would always remain permanent reminders of survival. "I should leave," she said quietly, "before they reach this sector. If they find me here, your farm, everything you've built, will still be here when they leave," Aunt Marcus interrupted. "Running now would only draw attention. Suspicious activity is exactly what their scanners are calibrated to detect." He pulled up a schematic of the farm. "Besides, I have contingencies." He showed her a hidden shelter beneath the cultivation dome, shielded against most standard scanning technologies. It had been designed originally as a storm refuge, but Marcus had enhanced it with military-grade dampening fields acquired through connections he never fully explained. "You planned for this," Kira observed. "I planned for a lot of scenarios," Marcus admitted. "You learn to think ahead when you've seen what I've seen." But as the days passed and the Alliance vessel drew closer, a strange thing happened. Instead of fear dominating their interactions, Kira and Marcus fell into a deeper rhythm of cooperation. They worked side by side in the cultivation fields, her height advantage allowing her to tend the upper tiers while he managed the lower systems. During evening meals, they shared stories that went beyond surface details, revealing the hopes and losses that had shaped them. Kira learned that Marcus had lost someone during the Kessian massacre, a fellow medic named Sarah whom he'd loved, but never quite admitted it to before she died trying to protect civilian children. The guilt of survival had driven him to this remote world, seeking penance through service. In turn, Kira shared her own grief about the younger sibling she'd left behind on Valtoria Prime. A brilliant student who dreamed of becoming a teacher, communication had been severed when the war reached their system, and Kira didn't know if her family still lived. "That's the worst part," she said one evening, her voice thick with suppressed emotion. "Not knowing. Always wondering if today is the day you'll receive confirmation that everyone you loved is gone." Marcus had taken her hand then, his smaller human fingers careful around her claws. "They might still be alive," he said gently. "Hope isn't foolish, Kira. Sometimes it's the bravest thing we can hold on to." On the 16th day after the Alliance ship's arrival, their careful routine was disrupted. An unexpected dust storm rolled in from the west, one of Taros Prime's infamous red tempests that could strip paint from metal and blind all but the most advanced sensors. Marcus immediately shifted the farm to storm protocols, securing the cultivation domes and powering up the habitat's reinforced shields. But the storm brought unexpected opportunity. "Their orbital scans will be useless until this clears," Marcus observed, watching the sensor data. "Complete atmospheric interference. They're effectively blind." Kira understood the implication. "We could move. Get to one of the other colonial settlements while they can't track us. There's an independent colony about 200 kilometers northeast," Marcus confirmed. "Nueva Esperanza, Spanish for New Hope. They're not Alliance-affiliated, maintain their own governance. You'd have a chance there, especially with your technical skills. They're always looking for qualified people." It was a solution, perhaps the best one available, yet Kira found herself reluctant to leave. Over these weeks, this farm had become more than a hiding place. It had become something dangerously close to home. "Come with me," she said impulsively. Marcus looked surprised. "Kira, you said yourself the Alliance is tracking refugee movements. If they're thorough enough, they'll eventually check records of who lives in this sector. They might question you anyway." She stepped closer, urgency driving her words. "You've helped countless people, Marcus. Let someone help you for once." He was quiet for a long moment, and Kira could see the internal struggle on his face. This farm represented his attempt at redemption, his way of making peace with the past. Abandoning it wouldn't be easy. "What about the crops?" he finally said. "The colonies depending on this food?" "Set the automated systems to maintain production," Kira suggested. "You've designed them well enough. And Nueva Esperanza has agricultural facilities. You could establish new operations there, help them expand their capabilities." She allowed herself to hope. "We could work together, build something better than just surviving." The storm raged outside, red dust painting the windows in ever-shifting patterns. In that moment, insulated from the hostile universe beyond, A different future seemed possible. "All right," Marcus said at last. "When the storm clears enough for travel, but before their scanners come back online, we go together." Relief and something warmer flooded through Kira. She reached out and Marcus met her halfway, their hands clasping in a gesture that bridged species and circumstance. They spent the next hours preparing. Marcus loaded essential supplies and equipment onto his all-terrain transport vehicle, a sturdy rover built for the harsh desert conditions. Kira packed the few possessions she'd accumulated, including data chips containing technical specifications she'd been developing for improved farming systems. As they worked, they talked about Nueva Esperanza, about what they might build there. Marcus knew people in the colony, former Relief Corps colleagues who'd also grown disillusioned with the Alliance. Kira's expertise in communications and systems integration would be valuable for a growing independent settlement. "It's strange," Kira mused as she secured cargo. "A month ago, I was on a transport with 300 people, surrounded by my own kind, yet I felt utterly alone. Now here with just you, I feel like I've found something I didn't even know I was searching for." Marcus paused in his preparations. "What's that?" "Partnership," Kira said simply. "True partnership, where differences are strengths rather than divisions. Where trust isn't assumed or demanded but grown carefully like your crops." "Like our crops," Marcus corrected with a slight smile. "You've earned co-ownership of this operation, makeshift as it is." The storm reached its peak intensity as they finished loading the rover. The habitat groaned under the assault of wind and sand, but its shields held. Inside, Marcus and Kira shared a final meal, neither speaking much, both contemplating the journey ahead. "I won't lie to you," Marcus said eventually. "Nueva Esperanza isn't perfect. They have their own challenges, their own politics, and there's always a chance the Alliance will track us even there." "I know," Kira replied, "but I've learned something these past weeks. Running isn't just about escaping danger. Sometimes it's about running toward possibility." She met his eyes across the table. "I spent 5 years running from war. I want to start running toward peace." As the storm finally began to abate in the early morning hours, they made their final preparations. Marcus activated the farm's automated protocols, ensuring the cultivation systems would continue functioning in his absence. He left carefully worded instructions for any Alliance inspectors, claiming a temporary relocation for equipment maintenance. They stood together at the habitat's entrance, watching the red dust settle and visibility gradually improve. The sun was rising, painting the desert in shades of gold and crimson. "Ready?" Marcus asked. Kira extended her wings carefully, testing their range of motion. The left one would never achieve its former perfection, but it could support her weight and would continue healing. Scars, she had learned, didn't have to mean weakness. Sometimes they were evidence of survival, proof that you had endured the worst and emerged still capable of flight. "Ready," she confirmed. They climbed into the rover, and Marcus started the engine. As the vehicle pulled away from the farm that had been sanctuary, shelter, and something more, Kira looked back only once. The structures grew smaller in the distance, eventually disappearing into the desert landscape. But she wasn't sad. She was carrying the important things with her: renewed strength, hard-won trust, and the knowledge that even in a universe torn by war, kindness still existed. That sometimes strangers became family not through blood or species, but through shared compassion and mutual respect. The journey to Nueva Esperanza would take nearly 2 days across rough terrain. As they drove, Marcus and Kira talked about their plans, about the systems they would develop together, about building something that might, in its small way, represent resistance against the forces trying to divide people into categories of worthy and unworthy. "Thank you," Kira said at one point, her voice barely audible over the rover's engine. "For what?" Marcus asked. "For seeing me," she replied. "Not a refugee, not a dragon woman, not a security concern. Just me." "Kira." Marcus was quiet for a moment, then he reached over and squeezed her clawed hand gently. "Thank you for trusting me enough to stay, for teaching me that redemption isn't about isolation, it's about connection." Above them, the sky was clear and brilliantly blue. The Alliance vessel had moved on to scan other sectors, its pursuit continuing elsewhere. For now, they were free. Two unlikely companions heading toward an uncertain future with nothing but hope and determination. And sometimes, Kira thought as the desert rolled past and possibility stretched before them, that was more than enough. The end.